West Ham have said goodbye to the Boleyn. It was an incredible game against Manchester United, an incredible atmosphere and just an incredible night. On Twitter, loads of people tweeting their goodbyes. Danny Dyer was on it. Even Triple H got involved.
Why?
Massive diehard West Ham fan. Some people also on Twitter saying that, look, it's not that big a deal, people move, but it's not just a ground for people, especially West Ham fans, it's their home as well. And it's a massive deal, and most football fans should be able to understand that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, Spurs are in a similar situation. I'm a Tottenham fan, and it's going to be happening to us in a year's time. And the thought of leaving that stadium and moving into a purpose-built stadium, or just a football stadium that does have none with it, none of the traditions and history that's been created. You're walking into new bricks and mortar with no ghosts and no and history.
Yeah, no legends,
no memories, no legends. You've got to rebuild it all, and that's a very scary thing to kind of take on board, and you're having to forget ultimately about everything great that's happened at your football club.
Yeah,
it's a massively emotional thing, and I'm not sure how I'm going to cope. And West Ham.
What with West Ham leaving the Boleyn?
Oh, I should cope with that.
Yeah, from a QPR fan's perspective, that's how I could connect with what happened last night. Leaving Loftus Road is somewhere that it's the only home ground I've gone to. I mean, obviously, and so to leave something like that, those deep roots, those places where you've had so many highs and lows, players that you've liked because they're awful, players that you've hated, managers that you had, all those things, all those feelings.
The glory, the trophies lifted.
We lifted one there, yeah. Other teams have lifted it at Loftus Road as well. Leaving all that behind is that's what's kind of gut-wrenching about it, from just watching it from afar. Before the game, there was a sort of party atmosphere outside the ground. Man United's coach decided to drive through that party and bottles were thrown. People expect that to be from the West Ham fans, but you don't know. All the journalists have said that it is those guys, and you would naturally say that. But we want to hear from a West Ham fan. So we've spoken with Nicky from West Ham Fan TV, who's given his side of the story because he was there.
Now, the Man United, the West Ham coach turned up, and it was held up for a little while. Then the Man United coach turned up, and obviously there were windows smashed. I'm not going to turn around and say there wasn't windows smashed. Of course there were windows smashed. We've seen it all across the press. But it's easy to turn around and say, because it happened outside the Boleyn pub, it's easy to turn around and say, yeah, West Ham fans, there's no proof of that. I'm not going to be naive and say there was none involved. You'd be stupid to. But what wasn't reported in the press is that about 100 to 200 West Ham fans, real West Ham fans, the ones that was going to the game, the ones that was there for a celebration, turned up, and when the riot police come in, stood in front, side by side, and in front of the riot police to stop people throwing bottles at them. And I haven't seen any of that reported across the press this morning. Real West Ham, and I mean, I'm talking about, I see people in that line that I've known for years. I put my reputation on the line now by saying, if there's more than 30 to 40 real West Ham fans that attended the game yesterday that was throwing bottles and causing carnage out of hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and probably thousands of people lying in the street, I'll be very surprised. Real West Ham fans weren't there yesterday to cause trouble. Real West Ham fans were there to celebrate what the history and the heritage of the ground and the club and everything good about it. We can't control who stands out in the streets. This didn't happen in the stadium. This didn't happen, this wasn't people inside a stadium doing it. It's just people in the street. Just because it happened outside the Boleyn doesn't mean it's necessarily West Ham fans.
Do you really? Nicky, I respect Nicky and his opinion, and he's a great mate now. But I can't see it being anyone else than West Ham. It had to be my feeling is that it was a very young lot, because I've seen youthful groups of lads behave like that at football. I've never thrown bottles, but I've
there's a craving for that, isn't there, when you're a bit younger, maybe. Football. Yeah.
But I don't know. It's a bit hard to believe. I mean, who else? Who in their right mind would want to go to a West Ham party other than West Ham fans? But maybe I'm wrong.
I would guess that it's somewhere kind of in the middle. Nick is understandably sort of passionate about the people, the care and are able to behave when being around the football. But it's that minority that every football club has.
Emotions were running high.
Yeah.
All right, and people have been drinking all day, and
this is it, isn't it? That's your last. That's your last time there. There's businesses that are going to go out of business. There are people that are losing their jobs, both in the ground or at the club, because you're going to a new stadium and they're going to employ different people. So
and there's some there that probably don't want to move. And I'm not saying they decided to let this out against the Man United coach, obviously, because that wouldn't make any sense. If anything, it would be against West Ham's owners or whatnot. But emotions were running high. I keep saying it. And when they do, and you add drink to it, you kind of behave in a way that you wouldn't necessarily want to or expect to any other day. What do you think? They talk about lifetime bans. I mean, do you think that's...
You're going to ask me that, are you?
Yeah, I am,
ask me that. Cheers. Look, the tribalism of football is something that we love. You're passionate about your team, and therefore you generally hate anyone who comes in the way of that. But you can't throw bottles at a coach.
No.
Someone could have got hurt. I think a policeman got a minor injury. I'm sure he's hopefully fine. But you can't do that. So there has to be lengthy punishment for something like that. You can't allow it to happen. But as Nicky said, it shows that you've got their own fans with the police saying to people, stop it. So that's the majority, I would imagine.
I think what they were trying to protect is the occasion. They didn't want it to be marred by this the bottle throwing, essentially, because what they're doing is celebrating the closure and the end of an amazing time for West Ham, and the closure of an amazing football stadium as well.
Yeah, absolutely. The game itself was absolutely awesome. 3-2, like Winston Reid popping up with that header. I mean, you couldn't have written that. You could have, and it was just about right. It's a perfect script
for Man United to hang on. I want them to ruin the party. It'd be fantastic, wouldn't it? But I'm a Tottenham fan, so.
Afterwards, did it hit home? On Twitter, people were reacting, saying that the farewell, the stuff with the fire and the dry ice and all that, and the taxis, it didn't really hit home, and they kind of missed the point a bit. Do you agree?
I would like to be. I'd like for it to be a bit more about the fans. It's them that are losing out.
Yeah.
I don't want to see Teddy Sheringham talking about his 1 year at West Ham.
What a year, though.
I want to see what the fans' reaction. I want to see tears in their eyes. I want to see the raw emotion of what makes football great. Because what makes football great ain't bursts of fire and dry ice. No. It's the fans. That's where the emotion comes from, and that's where the passion comes from. And I think they just whoever set that up, the way to send off the Boleyn, I think they missed a trick there, because really it should have been a party for the fans, and seeing them enjoy it, even from a Tottenham fan, would have been something much more interesting than explosions and
I mean, understandably, you've got a TV audience that want to see what's going on there. This is a global game now, so you have overseas fans who want to see what's going on. But once again, as two neutrals who were watching it last night, it was about the fans. You want to see how much it meant to them. You don't want to be hearing Mark Noble being forced into talking about how great the board are.
It's almost like, I don't know, I can imagine our captain standing up and going, Daniel Levy, what a man.
Yeah, exactly. So that's our opinion on the goodbye to the Boleyn. Let us know what you think about the trouble before the game itself, and of course Nicky from West Ham Fan TV's opinions. You can see the full rant on his channel, so go over there, make sure you subscribe. But let us know in the comments below what you think about all of this.
And remember, subscribe to Ball Street.